welcome back to the Power Rangers vlog. And today's episode was Freaky Frightday. And if anyone knows what the pun on that is, congratulations, you know the two Disney movies. If you've seen this one, that means you've seen the remake, and this is the original. And if you've seen the original, tell me if you feel old, because I'm starting to feel like a fossil right now. And for those who have not seen those two movies, it actually deals with a mother and daughter switching places. And when I mean switching places, I mean their bodies and minds were switched. There you go. So once I tell you that, you all, for those who haven't seen this episode, know what's going on now. In the A story, the non-Power Rangers moments, there's a graffiti artist who is vandalizing the museum. And Kendall's idea is to shove all 6 Rangers in a box and spy on where the graffiti artist is going to strike. Which leads to the question, aren't there other workers at this museum? She always used these 6 for the reason. I'm pretty sure she has some security guards, some people who talk about the museum artifacts and all that stuff. These 6 are mostly working in the freaking dining area. I'm just questioning, there has to be other workers at this museum besides these 6. Or is she afraid that if someone who was not a ranger discovers the hidden base underneath? Just asking. Anyway, we dealt with our usual humor of it's too tight, there's not enough holes to see what's going on, and Coda farted, causing them all to gasp for air. But they were able to find the graffiti artist, and they all busted out to capture him, and it's revealed he looks exactly like Ivan. After they got a quick answering of questioning of, have you ever been to Xandar? He just says, no, but I do have an ancestor, my great-great-great-great blah-blah-blah-blah grandfather who was a knight. Which leads to now this thought. Ivan, you had a wife or a lover or something, and she had a kid with you. That is shocking to be surprised, due to the fact that you mostly talk about an honorable, brave knight, and yet throughout that whole time you never once talk about you miss someone you care about, or all that. Well, at least he knows that his bloodline is still moving on, even after he was captured by Fury. So yeah, the graffiti artist's name is Zach. I'm sorry, I suck when it comes to the H and K in this name. Because some people will call themselves Zach with an H. I just question the logic. Well, they decided not to press any charges if he cleans up the graffiti mess. And with a bonding moment with Riley, weirdly enough, they explained about the valuables being desecrated using an accidental paint spill on Zach's coat. And over by the B plot, Snide is tied up, and Archon's just threatening to kill him, and Snide just doing an idea of he wants to work for Archon, with a simple idea. All he wants in return is to be split in half from Heckle, just like Xenowing and Doomwing. So Archon told Wrench to find a device, which I think he's going to find it with Kendall's more likely being the one who controls the device. And Heckle's already knowing that he's been backstabbed. So that's simple enough. And what was Snide's idea of taking the Energems? Using the Monster of the Week, Professor Strickler. And just to state in Sentai version, his goal was to make people more prim and proper. So that's the original monster's goal. This monster's goal has the ability to switch people's bodies and minds. Don't look at me. At the same time, they resurrected 2 more monsters from previous episodes. Run Coda Run and Nightmare on Amber Street. Beach, sorry. So, these 2 are back. Also, back to the A plot, Ivan decides to teach Zach more about the style of art. And, they're going to ask about how does Ivan and Zach look alike? They're cousins. So every time Zach will see Ivan, he will call him his cousin. Throughout the time, Ivan showed Zach a portrait of a knight riding a horse into combat. Zach decides to draw a knight on a motorcycle that's producing flames, and I will admit that is kind of cool, but Ivan calls it filth. And now we get to our Ranger fight. They all four of our Rangers runs in, finds Professor and the two other monsters to get into combat, and then the Professor's trick begins. He switches Tyler and Shelby's minds around, and he also switches Coda and Chase's. Sorry, my brain had farted for a moment. Switch them. So they're all basically doing the... I don't know what to do. They use their weapons, the Dino Spike weapons, and they don't know how to use them. And then, as soon as Riley and Ivan appear, switch, which didn't really help because both of those two are more blade users, so it didn't really do anything. Which then, two thoughts I could have said, which would have fixed this whole problem with the first problem about this whole thing. First up, I'm going to go with the Ranger side of this idea. So you can't use your Dino Spike-style weaponry. Use your gun and blade. You got those two. You're all mandatory to have a gun and a sword to use. I mean, Chase is a gunner. He can actually just pull out the normal gun and just shoot everyone. Voila! And I know they're all trained in using that sword, even though they're not experienced like Riley and Ivan. They can still use the blade. And now for the monster side of the stupidity of the idea. Why didn't you just switch the Rangers' minds around? Why didn't you just grab one of you guys' and just find one Ranger by himself and switch the monster with the freaking Ranger? That way it could be more of a secret agent thing. They could just go inside the museum, find the base, take the energy gems, and voila, there you go. Why didn't you just switch the Rangers around? That doesn't make any sense. That idea was actually more brilliant than what I just stated. But because of the fact that Ivan and Riley basically just beat the monsters, they're basically just going through the... How are they going to put up with with the other one's body? And yeah, they do the usual cliche of they're speaking. They're basically dubbing over the other person's vocal movements. So that cliche is getting out the window. Though I do find it funny that when Ivan as Riley goes sees Zach, because of the fact that he was told off about the art that he mocked, Zach basically saying, "Why does your voice sound different?" I kind of like it when they do that. It's actually noticing that we feel. I always thought throughout the whole time that when they do that whole thing, it's just to remind us who is basically possessing the body. But no, it's actually so other people know what the hell's going on. And also, so when they switch the mind around, do they also switch the voice box? I'm just asking. It's usually the bigger question I'm asking about that. Well, Ivan as Riley just did a saying that don't be so hard on Ivan. He's more of a traditional way, using smoothies as an example, that Ivan likes strawberries so much that given a lime, he may not like it, but he will try to like it. Doing that style. That's the best example. There was also like a throwaway joke that they had where everyone decided to wear the colors of what Ranger they are, and what Shelby as Tyler hates what... I'm sorry, I can't say she or he because I'm confused on this. Basically, Shelby's just complaining that the clothes are too loose and all that. I mean, too big. They find them. The monsters appear again, and they're doing that whole battle thing. And even the monster's like, "Wait a minute, who are you again? Which one's you again?" And then they had... Funniest part was them dubbing the other Rangers, doing the pose, and the explosion behind them was the color of what they actually are. So they had green posing, and it was gold explosion behind them. It was like that as an example. We get the battle. Xenowing jumps in into the combat, morphed, and Professor switches him and Xenowing's body, which that actually makes sense until the eraser was dropped and destroyed, reverting everyone back to normal. You had that idea for about 5 seconds at least. 5. I'm going to go with 5 at max, or minimum. They get their butts whooped. We get the giant monsters. They produce the giant toy Zord, fires the giant laser, wiping out all three. Voila, that's a battle. From how it ends on the good, from the Ranger side, Ivan's a little bit opening up with Zatch and suffered a brain freeze at the end after drinking a lime smoothie. For the villain side, this is the part where I slap myself in the head. Wrench somehow managed to get the device that splits people in half. So what? After the Xenowing Doomwing incident, Kendall just said, okay, I'm just going to leave them right here. Or she was too excited that she forgot about them. I'm sorry, she's supposed to be the smart person in the group. And yet she leaves a device out there in the open. Why would some random human finds it and just goes, what's this do? Like that. But yeah, the device works, splits Heckle and Snide in half, and Snide's now working with Archon, and Heckle's going into solitary confinement. How do I feel about this episode? It had so many ideas that could have worked with the monster side. I'm sorry. It's just, this whole idea of the body swapping cliche is so annoying, and it really didn't even faze them that much. It didn't even do any of the whole situations they gotta go through due to the fact they're in the other person's body. But then again, you only got half hour, and most of that you have to put in for the fight scene. So I can understand that, but you had not even that long of them just doing the whole, they're in a new body, so they need to know what they need to do in this body. All we got from them all was Shelby complaining about clothes, Tyler perfectly fine, Coda is eating food, and Chase is saying, don't eat all that, they'll ruin my body. That's it. That's all the other Rangers were doing. I'm sorry. This ain't going to be one of my great ones. Even questioning I'm just going to go with the plot demands it. For how did this all happen? Even Wrench finding the splitting device. What are the bloody odds that he found it left out in the open and not at the lab? I'm just saying. Oh, before I end this video, I do have to give out a shout out to Damn Quality. I'm sorry. Like I said, I can't suck at pronunciation. I suck with English. But he did state some comments about some of the video, about the last week's video I talked about. He even mentioned about Heckle and Snide when I made a comment about that Dark Energems thing. And yeah, though Heckle did lose his memory, and Snide was basically the evil half, when an evil half is telling a person with no amnesia what to do, yeah, evilness would start happening to Heckle. But when we regain his memory, he starts being good again. And when I made that comment, like, how come Xenowing didn't get affected with the amnesia thing? That titanium energem was basically his safety net. So if he didn't have that, he would have been doing the same thing Heckle would have been doing. So would he be having the same powers as Heckle is doing? Okay, my question for this video, it will be a simple one. Who's actually the better villain in this series? Sledge, Heckle, or Archon? Because right now, Archon's ideas are going in the pure stupid. Worse than Sledge. If I have to say in my opinion who's a better villain, Heckle at least did a better job being like a stealth person, being inside the museum. Archon and Sledge are fighting for second place right now. So I want to see what your opinion is. Who do you think of the three is actually the better villain? Like, comment, subscribe if you want to watch more videos that I produce. Till then, this is Rasa, signing out.